had hey bud, he's had 2 weeks off his walk, and he's going, you know what? I think I'm bored. Yeah, the babies. So breakthroughs. I've just had a breakthrough, but I don't know if it's a breakthrough. It's more just tolerances breaking. And look, quick background before we start it. I'm saying, like, on a superficial level, anyone will go, "You're just a spoiled fucking idiot." No. And like, just this last 2 days, like, if I have to perform a task, typically it's going to be worth at least 5 to 6 figures in product, and it's going to take me a day to go and collect it. You know, I had to go and buy an extra packet of tie downs yesterday, and it takes you about 2 hours to get it tied down, and then get home, and you got to have a meal, and then you got to get the forks out, and then get it all unpacked, and that's your day done. And yeah, just, it is what it is. The other one, just 2 or 3 weeks ago, again, I had to go up to Sydney and collect some 12-inch joiners and some 12-inch pipe, and I had the car trailer, and I had to go and find Sydney Tools. Go from leaving from the place where I collected the fittings and the pipes, and it was 5 minutes down the road, but it was a very eerie 5 minutes down the road, because I had to go to that shop to buy some vests, and it turns out that a large vest is the exact size of a 12-inch pipe, and I had to put the vests over the end of the pipes and duct tape them to it, so like there is a warning for cars and truck drivers, don't go near it. Anyway, again and again, just it was a double stacked pallet just for joiners. Unreal, eh? That's just for a few fittings. It's just, they're so big that you order 8 or 10 joiners, that's it. Like, you've got half a ton sitting there. Anyway, it's all big stuff. It is what it is. But so, yeah, I'm just going to, like, abundance. I don't want to say finance. I don't want to say wealth. I don't want to say any of those things. Let's just call it abundance. So, abundantly speaking, I have nothing to complain about on any level at all whatsoever, period. I mean, to top that off, I've got my stud dog turning up soon. Young Ramesis, the Bow Bowl. He's not going to say he's the icing on the cake, but he's going to be a much welcomed family member. I'm talking about that. So we're going to get to the point of tolerances, and just this is an interesting story, something to contemplate. So yesterday morning, I had to go to town to get the mail. As I was leaving, I was going down the driveway, and I go to open the gate, and as I drive through, and I go to shut the gate, there's a guy sitting there next to my gate with their bike, having a smoke. Now, I am at the end of a dead end, and it's just like I am in a place where no man would have any good reason to be near where I live, right? And so, like, I sat on it going to town, just, I asked him, "Are you okay?" before I left. Like, I think we'll get more to it afterwards. So I went to town, collected the mail, came back home, and I was like, oh, I don't know if he's still there. And I was like, surely he hasn't gone up to the house. Anyway, and I opened the gate, and they got a bit down the driveway, and I was like, oh, look at this buggy. There is bike tracks on the driveway. Now, it doesn't bother me. Just see that little fella there? Yeah, these are things that you do and you don't think about, like there are consequences for it. He loves to play catch and chase when I'm on the motorbike, and he loves ankles. And I've had to call him out on it, but like I can't even outrun him on a motorbike, a bloody push bike. That's just one scenario. I mean, if he came into my big dog's presence, oh, God have mercy on his soul. Anyway, so I saw these tyre tracks, and I called the police up, and I was like, look, because I hadn't had this experience here yet. Like, look, I got to break and enter here, I think. I'm going to go up and I'm going to, I'll go and find them. And like, I don't want to report them to you because I'm actually quite concerned for their well-being. And so I'm just reporting it to you now before I go and check, just in case, so that if I do capture them and there is an issue, it was initially reported and you'll be able to come and get it dealt with quick smart. Anyway, so got off the phone to the cops, get up to the, I call it the compound, the housing compound. And I go for a look around, nowhere to be seen. Jump on the quad bike, head back down the driveway out to the main road. It turns out that there were highway workers close by, and I asked them had they seen. They said, yeah, no, he took off, went down the highway. Exact description that I saw. Anyway, so I think what must have happened is he may have been coming down the driveway as I was coming out of it in the first place. It must have been what those tracks were. And he must have thrown his bike over the bloody fence and just thought, oh, all I can do is just sit here. I can't do anything else. That must be all it is. Anyway, it didn't hit me until I finally had that happen, where it's like, you know how like you got some people that they feel very insecure. A lot of people do this. They lock their doors, they lock their cars. Their life is a bird cage. They're living in bird cages and they feel safe in the cage. Mine's the complete opposite of that. It's like, I feel sorry for the criminal. And because unfortunately, if I live somewhere, I get the boundary fences sort of quick smart, and unless they can outrun, someone that's pretty good on a bike, they're not going to jump the fence anywhere. And I'd hate to say it, a manhunt is a lot easier than an animal hunt, and these animals are good at hunting. And so, not that I would ever use them for that, but what I'm trying to get at is, it didn't hit me until yesterday that I actually have a legitimate concern where I have compassion for criminals, where I wouldn't want them to go to jail. I would be I'm trying to save them from themselves. It's like, dude, you don't want to do this. And the last thing I need anyone doing is going up near my house, because they'll have more trouble than they even know what to do with. And so it forced me to actually have to go to the trade centre where they sell signs. And I had to get like one of those legitimate, not just beware of the dogs, but like enter at your own risk guard dogs. And also trespassers will be prosecuted. And just like, it's really interesting where I'm not trying to prevent a crime. I'm trying to prevent someone having to go to hospital. And so my signage isn't to deter, it's not a deterrent where like it's a warning. So there's a difference between fake it till you make it deterrence and having a legitimate warning sign to actually go, look, please keep away. I think those of us who have been knocked about by the old narcissist, as we grow older, we get really good boundaries and we get really good at enforcing them. And our good Lord likes to provide us with the best pets. and they love us dearly, and they would hate to see us be in trouble, you know. Anyway, so I just thought that was interesting. You've got deterrence and then you've got genuine warnings. I had to put warning signs up. Like, those signs are the warning shots. Don't come any further, because it's for your own benefit. So it's really interesting stuff, seeing how you get your security in check. And it could be a camera system as well. You know, smile, you're on camera. But if you have something which keeps your boundaries safe, it's very empowering, because I mean, beyond like not entering, because especially here in Australia, harassment is horrible. They don't understand boundaries, like, which is all going to tie into where I'm about to head to. So last night I watched this movie called Gridiron Gang, and you know, as one thing leads to the next, from one thing to the next, from one thing to the next, I saw something. Because I spent an amount of time in America at one point, and like, Asia, Europe, America, Australia, like, when you're at certain places, you read the psychology of the people and you want to understand the culture, and it's just like, cool, so why do they do what they do? And I'm not saying, because you've got such a massive pendulum, but like, you've got the ghetto and you've got gangs and you've just got, the Bloods and the Crips, and you've only got to live 200 meters away from someone and they are your mortal enemy. She's lions versus hyenas. It's no different than in England. I think English crime is potentially worse again, because they're just grubby little Stanley knife slingers. I mean, it's not good stuff. Like, it's pretty bloody satanic, to be honest with you. Anyway, why in England it's a deadbeat country, dead set, it's just flogged to bits. I mean, it is what it is. Do they really enjoy their football teams? Winners and losers. It's no different with every country and every team, in every situation. Sport has such a major dictation on every culture, and every culture will have their preferred sport. And the competition between people, community, tribes, towns, states, nations, etc. With the Olympics. Look at whatever else. I'm a representative of the Department of Sports and Rec. It's interesting, isn't it? And I discovered this, that even a major portion of allocated, budgeted funding from a state level is based upon local sporting heroes. If you've got someone that can, or has been in like a national team, there's every chance that will receive an extraction of funding from a state level to be able to get upgrades done to local facilities, etc. So it just is what it is. How does the system function? So a big part of the system is based upon sport, is what it is. Anyway, but it comes back to the basic conundrum of human motivation, determination, winners and losers. It all comes back to winners and losers. And as I was watching Gridiron Gang, I was like, it's going to pull into the psychology of hate itself, essentially. America's got a pretty broad pendulum home, and I think it's because of a lack of gun laws. It's in their amendments, everyone can have a gun. that's fine. Here, I've got 10,000 acres to be able to drive over, you know, and even more if I went looking. Do you want to know the effort that you have to go through, even as a primary producer, to have a gun? Here, it's almost not worth your trouble. You know? Now, I'm not saying that guns have a dictation upon, you know, national identity, the way that we think, etc. But they do change the way you think, because let me tell you right now, you put a gun to someone's head, they're going to respect you because they're going to value their life over being shot. And like you see it in some movies where it's just like, this is where I was watching Gridiron Gang, the Bloods and the Crips, even at such a young age, where you had these two young fellas, they were trying to find respect for one another, and that was the biggest thing that they had to break the power of, which was the gang. And as they broke the power of the gang, they had to break the fact that they probably lived 5 or 6 blocks away from one another, and they had to break down the mortal enemy issue to be able to find a common cause, to be able to work with one another, become a team, working for something, so they could learn to be brothers in arms. You know, so there's a major breakdown of a matrix that needed to be dealt with, which was, it's all ego-based, but like, when these two kids were standing in the training grounds, or potentially, you know, is at the beginning of the movie, it's like where a major part of the movie was based upon these two. What they did was essentially the highest version of ego-based living. So they stood up to each other, and you know, they ran up in each other's face. Eye contact, wouldn't break it, and yeah, having their short-worded conversations. And it's just like, if we're on the outside, you already know you'd be dead. And it's just hurt people. But none of them flinched, none of them backed down. Yeah, and their entire job was to chest beat and act intimidating, be absolutely alpha or nothing. Really interesting stuff, eh? And so, as we want to break this down for what it is, the life of the absolute alpha or perish is the life of losers. It's interesting, isn't it? You would think being the ultimate alpha male was to be the winner, but it's not. It comes from a loser's background. It comes from a loser's existence. It comes from a loser's mentality. It comes from a loser's belief systems. It comes from a losing culture. They eat, sleep, breathe, fight, fart, shit, losing. They are losers. Their very existence is lost. Just chest-thumping monkey games. You know, it's just animal-brained garbage. And, you know, you could say hard-hearted dogs. They have no remorse, no compassion. They have lost their connection with their maker. They are just animals. And they could barely think. And all they know is if I thump my chest and stand tall, even if I am broke, at least I can win fighting. It is the lowest form of existence itself. Even if I'm broke, at least I'm not weak. So you'll see the culture on this planet, how, you know, we're going into warriors here. See, this is where it's interesting. Really interesting stuff. Chest thumping, you know. Who's number one? Look at me. You know, the problem is everyone wants to thump the chest, but everyone's broke. I'd rather be, you know, more concerned about having an abundant future than trying to thump my chest and stand over people and act like I'm number one and correct. Just ego-based, useless, retarded, mediocre shit. Anyway, back to it. I'm not trying to be condescending towards it. It's just so fucking average is what makes life on earth a really ordinary experience. And there's no way that you could look at it to go, there's value in that. No, it's value that's garbage. You know? So, common respect, no respect. Here where I live in Australia, Australia is a pack of losers. Full of losers. And I didn't realise it, because I receive more hate than... I've had more hate in this life. I don't know what a genuine friend is. I don't. I don't know what... I wouldn't know what it would be to have a genuine relationship, partnership, or anything. I don't understand that genuine human connection yet in this life. That's why, like, it's only God, my connection to the Trinity, Holy Spirit, Jesus, Heavenly Father. That's it. That's my connection. Everything else has failed, and fucking miserably at that. Right? And I've been struggling with tolerances. And as I was in the gym earlier, and this is all going to tie together, I knew it was all going to come together if I just freelanced it. You know how earlier as I was walking down the hill and I was like, I couldn't complain about abundance. I couldn't. I am established, really established. And it's been happening for quite some time now, where week after week after week after week after week after week after week, I just point and shoot. My life is a shotgun. Literally, I just buy shit. Not with consumerism, it's not that. It is calculated purchases in order to have a precise amount of gear to execute what I'm trying to do to the most precise manner possible. And if you can see how, through the purchases, I'm looking for precision to be what you would call the ultimate warrior with an arsenal full of the best weapons. What do I want to be? A one-man band to be able to get the job done as good as possible so that I can be efficient. It just is what it is. That's what we do as men. But the problem that I've got, see, here's the conundrum. And as I talk this out, you're going to see that an answer that I'm looking for is going to present itself. So, and I think that's why I needed to talk it out. But if you can hear me talk this out, it will help you to understand a big conundrum in life. So as I'm in my gym and I have my tolerances break, I have a pretty heavy conversation with God, and my conversations with God are raw. They're direct, they're honest, they're genuine, they're raw. And it was a faith-based conversation. And I've had a concern with faith for, like, a big concern, 2016, like 5-6 years, a really big concern. Like, when I became a personal trainer, like, I distincted the shit out of that. And yeah, before that, so I was business focused. And so if there's two things, you know, like, so spirituality, there's not much that I don't know about that. I was taken on a royal tour from our good Lord himself upon the deeper levels of what you would call alchemy, which is fine. And I surrendered that and just live in faith. That's great. And I've got to find the balance with the knowledge that I have, because, you know, we must not lean on our own understanding. That is a really big one. Lean not on our own understanding, because I've got a library sitting there that I could just tap into, because a part of that library was learning how to organize things with systems, because I was also learning a lot about business. And business was the big thing that I was learning. And time management, that's massive. The first thing I ever learnt was time management. And that was way back at 06, 07, something like that. And this has just gone on for so long now. And these last few years, I kind of like dropped the books and dropped the pens and paper and the drawing boards and all the rest of it. And I've been able to walk in the flow state of the understanding of everything that was learned. I think it's like walking in your completeness, completeness as an established person, surrendered in faith while God uses you for his own purposes. Great. There has been a conundrum with that, and I needed to surface it because it's been eroding my ability to progress. Oh, I love you, Maserati. Hey, bud. Hey, little boy. He ain't little. He's a whopper. So, where were we? I think I pat the dog and I can't remember now. Walking in our completeness in a surrendered state, but having something break within the gym. So, very rounded. Learned a lot of things over the last 13, 14 years. It's been flat. Every day I haven't stopped. Always something. Anyway, for the last 6 months I have felt in suspension. But beyond the last 6 months, that suspension has actually been in place for the last 4 to 5 years. And this is where I felt the tolerances snap today when I was in the gym. Because, you know, I was getting back to, you know, talking about being established, and I've been living like a shotgun, just purchase, purchase, purchase. And it's always exactly what you need, because you know, fighting to be the best possible version you could be, and you've got to have the tools to do it. Right? Your tools are what open up the doors to your opportunities. Dead set. Your gifts. Right? The gifts that you have and the tools that you have to apply them, lethal, lethal, lethal. And typically that's how I function, is as something new presents itself, if I can see a tool that's needed to be able to make my life a little bit easier, the last thing we need is arthritic fingers. So manual tools are all right, but if you can find something automatic and air driven or battery powered, you're onto it. It's like, I don't mind swinging off a 1 meter long breaker bar, but when Milwaukee makes a 1400 Newton pound brake force, half-inch drive impact gun, I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm not going to even think twice about it, you know. It makes my 32 mil nuts that have been rusted on for the last 30 years come off quite easily. So it is what it is, right? So just over the last few days, my focus has been based upon, I've got to get my sheds a little bit more tidy, because there is a conundrum that I can't deal with. And I couldn't figure it out until I figured it out. I haven't figured it out completely because this is an ongoing issue. And I've got a factory, a machinery shed, a tractor shed, a bike shed, and there's 3 other sheds, and I think I need 2 more sheds. Anyway, you're joking, but like, no. And this is why I'll say it's a conundrum, because with these conundrums, I've got to get the bloody drawing board out to understand what's the conundrum. And I went to the factory, and that's just here, that's not elsewhere, that's just here. I went to the factory the other day, and I forgot that when I was dealing with fruit, in the refrigerated container, we had all this shelving, and I was like, oh God, I could use some of this shelving in this other shed, because I had a bit of an idea. And anyway, I got up this morning and I fasted today, and I put that idea into practice. And it turns out that I finished the idea at exactly 11:11. Isn't that cool? Anyway, it's you know, we're talking about systems, categorizing, breaking down, organizing, getting things so that it all runs smoothly. We decongest, we organize, we want things to work properly, you know? And these shelves, I didn't use all of them, I just took what I needed for the amount that was required. And again, this is why I love, you know, working with God, because this was God's setup. Everything was millimeter perfect, and I had just the right amount. And oh, but I got this particular shed decked out, and yesterday afternoon I put one of the whirlybirds on it. Anyway, I turned that into my small engine shed. What are you talking about? chainsaws, whippersnippers, mowers, post hole drivers, post hole diggers, hedge trimmers, generators, gurneys, pumps, jackhammer, I think. Anyway, like, stuff. That then cleared out the original shed because I didn't realise that I felt congested because my original shed, I had my motors sitting on the floor where I couldn't use my workbenches. Now, the conundrum that I'm dealing with right now, because I'm trying to find the balance, because even if I was to pack up stumps, it's not going to happen, but if I was, at least I would understand the system of it. See, I feel like a lot of our life is based upon trying to come into an understanding of the best system for us to function in the most efficient way possible. And then just be able to wash, rinse, repeat that. You know, we are a work in progress, and we're trying to, you know, perfect ourselves to get to the point where, like, we've got it right. And it's a constant battle. There is always shelves that have had mice on it or something. There is always a congestion that has happened somewhere, and it's just a continual categorizing, subcategorizing, subcategorizing. So the factory, after getting the categorizing sorted, I realized that I've got factory gear in a place where I think I'd like to have a work shed, because I've now got a decision where I've got this down to 2 particular sheds where one's got closed doors and one's got open air, and I'm going to make a decision, and I can't see that decision yet until I move the fertilizer spreader, mulcher, spare quad, spare lawnmower into the motors shed, and move the factory gear, the boxing, the jars, the bottles, the packaging, etc., over into the factory, so that my 2 main sheds, one should be the tool workshop, the other should be welding, look, fucking pipe benders, sheet clamps, plasma cut, MIG, stick TIG, drop saws, grinding, just steel work. I'm not a woodworker, but with woodwork, here's the funny thing. Don't laugh, because I've been looking at it. Wood mill. Well, I've been looking at it. I had a tree fall the other day, and its trunk (1.5 meters wide. Unreal. It took everything of my 661 to get it cut up. And here, are you ready for it? That tractor with the forks, I've lifted some big trees of that, and I thought, look, I could make 3 meter lengths out of this trunk. I went to try and lift it, that nearly tipped the friggin' tractor. So that's that big. I had to knock them down to meter width and take it away, so they're as good as bloody firewood now. Either that, or I could probably cut through it, and if, and only if, I wanted to get into woodworking, they could probably be turned into kitchen tables where you could put resin in them. I don't think I want to get into woodworking. I like welding. Yeah, no, mate. It's the blacksmith that sits in the blood. Anyway, so my conundrum has been, do I want to work into a shed where I can close its doors? The problem is lighting and having to get that dealt with. Or do I want to work in an open space but then have the elements? The open space makes sense to me. I would still have to enclose it a little bit for security reasons though. So, like, getting ourselves functioning properly within our establishments, I mean, we're looking for our own personal freedom in regards to our idiosyncrasies, right? I obviously, look, I've got a trailer that's being, just gear, and it's fucking unreal. Like, and the problem is, it all gets freaking used. Once I get the factory gear taken to the factory, and once I get the small motors taken out of the open shed, good boy, I'll be able to see. It's really funny. It's like, I can't think because I can't see, or I can't hear because I can't see. Sometimes I can't, like, yeah, let's not get into teaching methods yet. I'm very pragmatic. I'm saying seeing is believing, because I've got lots of faith and I've got a really good relationship with our maker, but our learning style, some need to hear, some need to listen, some need to do. Yesterday, when I had to make a decision upon getting a particular product, there was 3 decisions, and I had to speak to the stockman here about what they were trying to explain to me, because I couldn't understand what they were explaining to me until I had it in front of me so I could see it. And once I saw it, it was actually his explanation, not my understanding, which is fine. That's why I needed to see what he was talking about. And where are we heading to with that? What's that got to do with the price of milk? Back to it. Anyway, these buildings, I think, a bit more shelving. Crazy, isn't it? And I've got 5 good workbenches. I've got one that I've got to make up at the moment. That flail mulcher that I got, it came with this big frame. And it's that big a frame that I was like, I better get a top of this and make a bench out of it. So I've got to get that made up. And once I got that made up, I think the workshop has got the doors on it, even though it's got the benders and it's got all the gear in there, it's a storage shed. I think I will make the decision to be outdoors. I can always put a gas heater in there, or even better, install a wood fire burner in the corner. But ultimately, I was trying to figure out, like, what's my green conundrum that I haven't been able to see for like nearly 2 years since I've been like down here at the moment. I haven't got a workspace. Isn't that funny? And it's because I inherited gear that wasn't mine, but it needed to come with me because it was just part of like God's plan for my life. So a large part of my life has been organizing stuff and getting stuff to be able to organize stuff better, and then getting stuff to be able to function better whilst I do stuff. And you got to have a really practical waste management plan for your life if you're going to take the entrepreneurial route and you know, establish yourself correctly. Fortunately, I mean, out here I've got a fire, and every 6 months when I light it, I get at least 100 tonne of garbage on it that's got to go up. But here, burn, burn, burn away. And it is what it is, what it is, what it is, what it is, what it is. You see these trees? Monsters, they take 2 days to clear it. So this one here, that's how you block off roadways. I cleared that the other week. Yeah. Just trying to think the direction. Oh. I think you get the base, like a really big tree comes down. My God, that doesn't clean me off. Anyway, waste management. My biggest issue was cat tins. And I've got all of my waste management down to pat, where I've just got to take these, 60 litre bins with the lids on them, take those to town like every couple of weeks and just send them off to the recycling, so I don't have to pay for waste management. I've got it all sorted. I can't believe we're 40 minutes in and still haven't hit the point of what the original point of this topic of what the video was all about, because it's one of faith, right? Tolerances, winners and losers. I had a tolerance break within the gym, so we were going off on different things in the gym, just like elsewhere with this organization. You would think that I've got a sense of contentment with shotgun buying, and I couldn't figure it out until today. And this has been an issue for a couple of years now, because I've been getting established, living in faith. And I can explain to you what faith is, because I've literally written the books that are the antithesis of faith. I'm not saying, well, the books that I've written are the laws that faith is based upon. And I've had to put the books down and just allow. And I'm not saying it's really eroded my control, really eroded my pride. It's not that. It's just, I was going back to, so we've got winners and losers, been organising shit. I'm going to really hit on something here in a second. So, I've been busy getting all the workshops and sheds and the land and farms and everything, security, whether that's water, border security, whether that's access roads, whatever else, getting the land dealt with. But today, as I'm looking at my gym, and I've been getting my gym very well established, it's got everything. I don't think there's anything left that I need. Like, it's just set up. And as I was in there, I recognised that since I've been on this faith walk, but 2016 that it really took off, the faith walk itself. Like, I've been on it since 07, 08, but like, it really shot off. So I think I need to do 10 years before I really got into it. Anyway, I haven't been able to get back into the gym properly. And beyond not being able to get back into the gym properly, it doesn't matter how hard I try, I keep not so much getting knocked off the rails. It's not that, but all I've been doing recently is sustaining. And with the sustaining, there's no better than, there's no worse than. Ultimately, I'll look better than I've ever looked. And it's obviously because it's the work that I do. Yesterday, for example, when I had to go and collect, payload, part of it was ring lock mesh, 96 kilogram rolls, the 200 meter rolls, pick them out like they're nothing, because they're as heavy as that 12-inch pipe that I was dealing with. So it's all circumstantial with everything else. So farmers, we're just naturally strong, eh? And so with the intermittent fasting, all the other stuff that we've been doing, so it's just like, I've been doing it, but it's been aimless. But not so much aimless, I'm not saying to impress or whatever, because I'm not sitting here trying to say that I've been acting like some surrendered flogged dog trying to impress someone to get praise and approval. It's not that. Just through living in faith, I've lost my direction. And as I was in the gym, and I was like, so it feels like it's directionless, but then it's not directionless, because we're going somewhere, and this faith-based walk has been allowing God to just take the lead and just follow. We are just dogs on a lead. And you want to put that into the next step. A dog on a lead is just a pawn on a chessboard. And I've seen how I've been a pawn on this chessboard for a couple of years, but like especially these last 2 years. And obviously I've had doors opened up for me, and when you want to, I mean, just and the businesses that I've come to deal with, and the respect that you get, it's on a different level, because like you've got to really, once you're established and once you're confident within yourself, you can't work for the rich unless you know how to spend. You can't. And so when I walk into a supplier, unless you've just spent 6 or 7 grand, you haven't even walked in there. That's just normal. And how about and what that does is, obviously, when you walk into those places, they're like, well, here he comes. Cups of tea, doors open, they look after you. It's interesting. Back to it. So it's all there. You'll be saying, got the life. And I don't, like corn, got the life. No, it's just, it's not that, because everything, if you look at the bigger picture here, you know how I was saying, like, there'll be a resolution, it will resolve itself. Look, it's a big topic, and there's been a big picture, and I have felt like a pawn on a chessboard. But the bigger issue is because of the scale, the scope, and the, I can't say direction, because it's been directionless in a sense. The lack of certainty. It's the sheer magnitude of what I've been doing. It's so big that I've had to learn to swim with the whales and the sharks and become a giant, or not comprehend it and not be able to function within it. And the problem I've got is a faith-based walk makes you a warrior without targets. Took us 47 minutes to get there. Now, I'm not saying Christians are warriors without targets, but we are. We are warriors without targets. We are walking in faith, and God's the one that's shooting the targets. We're just the arrow. And that I've been, so through the explanation over this past 3/4 of an hour, you will have seen that I've been kept busy. But being kept busy is one thing. When you have no direction as a male, we've got to shoot goals. We've got to score goals. If we're not functioning, working towards a direction, it becomes corrosive. And I feel like a targetless warrior is someone that's sitting in suspension. Now, they say faith is the elixir that forces us to grow exponentially. And hey, can't argue with that. But there's a point in my journey which comes next, and it's, we're just going into uncharted territory now, because the size of what I've been doing is just, it's almost unfathomable. And it wasn't for everyone to walk. It's a path that God chose me to walk, and I've done it quite well. But the next part for me is I can't be aimlessly walking as a targetless warrior, as a pawn on a board anymore. I can't be doing it anymore. And it's just, we're talking like fruitless efforts. You're in the gym, you've got nothing to aim for. Yeah? And this is like answering a really big question that I knew, because I fell off the rails after doing my big lift a few years back. And the reason why I fell off is because I didn't have goals to work for after I achieved the goal. So we have to have continuous goals to be aiming towards. If we are not aiming towards goals, we become directionless. And maybe where my suspension has been sitting is I've been waiting in a state of not my own uncertainty. I've watched something fall apart to like potentially in the next few days. It will either die or there will be a breakthrough. That's in God's hands now. I have no control over any of this. I've been here playing my part. It's at the end of its road what this is. So it's breakthrough time with it. whatever comes out of it's going to be massive. And that's my business, which is what it is. But I need this to die, or I need this breakthrough. Look, I've got a pup coming. We've got our kingdom spouses coming. That's going to make life a lot better. But beyond that, as a man with the works of our hands, we have to have direction. We have to know what we're doing. You know, I'm not saying you need to have absolute certainty, but you need to have reasonable grounding so there's not so much of a state of anxiety sitting there going, well, what happens tomorrow? Once you learn to walk in uncertainty, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, there is no certainty. And we don't want to go down that path of going, well, what's the point? Because really, what is the point? But like, let's not go down there. Because we're walking in faith, even though it feels like we've been walking as targetless warriors. I think that targetlessness has been a state of suspension in order to grow us. And I don't think it's going to stay around forever. But I'm not the only person that would have grown weary with this. I'm not saying, God, hurry up. I'm not saying bring the rapture. I'm not saying any of that. I just, as a personal trainer and someone who was going to take the business consulting route, but ended up walking the path that I'm walking now, which was God's choice for me, I'm sick of the uncertainty, but it's not the uncertainty. I'm sick of not having established goals to be able to aim towards when everything that's happening could be ripped out like a rug tomorrow. I just want the fucking rug ripped or not. I just want it done already, you know? God has been keeping us all in suspension for long enough. It's suspension. There it is. Suspension is suspense. I want the curtain to drop, but then that's God's timing for the curtain to drop. Something's going on, big surprise, whatever else. Is there going to be, you know, woo, party blowers, you know, surprise? Like, just, I fucking knew we were going to find this. Suspense is suspension. Suspension is suspense. We're being kept in suspense, waiting for the conclusion to happen in a state of faith which has given us no direction, creating targetless warriors. Holy shit, there it is. I don't even need to go any further on with this. If you were listening to this and you were looking for what I was trying to explain to get to the point of like the whole conundrum, there it is. Me, as with you, have probably got sick of the suspense of being sat in suspension. Suspension is targetless warriors who have not got direction to be able to create traction, to be able to, you know, keep moving. We need to be able to practice. You know, you can't put 10,000 hours into something if you've got nothing to aim towards. We have been in suspense, in suspension, aimlessly working towards someone else's goals, which is the powers beyond us, where blind, we've been working blind, like the whole thing, at some point we need to see what we've been working for. If this is what life was, I wouldn't want to continue. So where my faith is sitting at right now is because if we have the breakthrough and it's this same bullshit, I'm walking and I'm going to go and stack shelves. Fuck the promise, fuck everything. I can't keep doing this, all right? And that's not being rude. I got nothing to prove. Unfortunately, I've got the power to be a king. Seriously, as well. But I'm that sick of this uncertainty. I'm that sick of this aimlessness. I'm that sick of this suspension. I'm that sick of just sustaining, just getting by. It's gone on for too long. I feel like the world's biggest waste of talent that has been sitting here twiddling my fingers. Just spending, that's not aimless either, but just buying shit to bide time and keep it organized. And well, this video had to happen, and I hope it clarifies something for you, but I know I think I'm fed up with it. And it doesn't matter if I'm fed up with it, because God will make it go on for another 2 or 3 or 4 years, but at least by you hearing what I've had to say here, that's the frustration. And to wrap this up, what is the answer? We need to create a side project beyond what's going on, Because if we have something that we're in control of and have direction with, at least it keeps us sane. So maybe I'm going to get back into the guitar. Maybe I might start doing personal training, but then I don't want to go near anyone because I'll have the, you know, the juice. I might get into the stock market, but then that's going to crash at some point, I'd say. I mean, I don't know what I get into, but like, we got to have something that we have control over. We need to be, you know, so it doesn't matter who you are. God is in control, and, you know, because we're in a surrendered state. But if we don't have something that we're in control of, we become aimless and we become quite despondent. So for anyone that is struggling on this faith-based walk, just like I have been, it's time to find a project, because the project that I'm on is going to take up the rest of my life, my kids' life, my grandkids' life, my great-grandkids' life. We've got a dynasty. But outside of the dynasty, which is the purpose, if I don't have a project to focus on, our mental health is important. Okay? So this is clarified for me that through aimlessness, we don't need to make what we are walking in faith for be the target that we're trying to shoot for. We can have a side project to keep us sane whilst we allow God. So it's just like, how do we work with God? We work alongside God. I'll be asking God now through my own prayers and faith, what can I do, not to keep myself entertained, what can I do as potentially a hobby outside of what you are wanting for me, so that I can start to aim for something and feel some fulfillment. I need direction. I'm not the only one. We're males, you know. Uncertainty and directionlessness. It's a big call for males to, you know, be called into that and to walk it. Most would have thrown it in the bin. I'm not going to, but just most would have, because there's a lot of heartache in it, eh? Anyway, that's clarified it for me. I hope this whole talk has helped you with something. Maybe it's getting back into the gym, and maybe it is just setting a goal, irrelevant of whatever happens of anything else. Maybe I'll go, I want this in 12 months with my body. What's it for? Don't know yet. But unless there is a goal, unless there is a target, it's just, life gets a bit mundane. May God bless you. Jesus loves you. May the Holy Spirit guide you. I'm done. Catch you. Okay.